Being here on vacation on the shores of Thailand, I came to a recognition today, which I have many times over throughout my life, in fact, which is that dissatisfaction is this core component of incarnation, especially as a human being. And you see, I came to this because obviously I had a lot of anticipation and excitement and thrill and joy and passion to be here, right? And I have a quite extensive list of things I want to do whilst here, and I've set out to do multiple of those already. And over, I come to the conclusion that none of these things, none of these experiences that I gather or cultivate are in fact able to supply me that happiness which I seek, which I sought. And the reason for that really is because we as humans always have this seeking tendency. We are looking for that particular thing, whether it be an experience, a place, a person, an activity, a substance, what have you, right? Something that will deliver that promise of peace and happiness. But the thing is, all things are in fact temporal. All things fade out in due time. And so the peace and happiness that you think is contingent on this particular thing that you're seeking is bound by time. And you know that. And so the experience of happiness that you get, the joy from that particular experience is always short-lived. And in this way, we're caught in this perpetual trap, this loop of looking for something which is not already here. We assert that our current experience is not good enough as it is. We need something more. We need to add on to or remove in case of something that causes pain or suffering, right? To add on to or to remove from our experience, to reach that equilibrium, to make our experience joyful. But this is a trap because nothing is able to deliver that. And what I find is that once you have that experience, it feels hollow. It feels empty inside because you know that it didn't carry that spark that you were looking for. And I believe at a certain stage of spiritual maturity, you come to realize that, in fact, this is the case for all things in life. You may think that if you have more money, if you have the right partner, if you have these things going on in your life and all this sort, it will all be fixed and sorted out. You'll be satisfied and that'll be it, right? That is never the case. It is never the case, and that is why even millionaires, billionaires are depressed and lonely, because not even they are able to satisfy that craving. They can't scratch that itch. And in fact, this is not a disappointing realization. It may seem that way because it leads you to conclude that you can't find that happiness and joy. But in fact, this is the first step of liberation, because then you come to the conclusion that you're not, like, looking for that thing is never going to yield what you're looking for. And so peace and happiness must be realized without attaching on to a particular experience. And this means that you are receptive to notice what is here. Because once your attention no longer is going outward, looking for things, there is space to look inward, to notice what is right here. And in that subtle noticing of simply bringing your attention to what is, rather than what you want to be or what you wish were instead, you come to realize that the peace and happiness which you were in fact looking for was nowhere else to be found except right here. And isn't that the gift of life? To know that we always have that available. And that is it is simply our seeking for something else, which is in fact veiling that apparent peace and happiness. It is so silly, in fact, when you see this. But for this reason, I think it's perhaps the most important discovery. Because otherwise you will go down the spiritual route. I see so many people here, spiritual people, who are still looking, attending this webinar, this workshop, this breathwork session, receiving this and that healing, right? And it's all right here. That's the beauty. And it's here for you too. If only you pause to take in the moment, to simply be with what is and breathe into that. That is all. Thank you so much for listening. Tune into my Discord down below if you feel called, and with that, have a wonderful day.